Looks like we are live, and everybody, I want to invite you back for another really cool show today of Ask Michael Ehline. And before we start to another edition of Ask Michael Ehline, this is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. All right, so you guys kind of get it. We've heard a lot of stuff going on with Chile DeCastro's case, and a lot of people talking about his arrest, people bringing up the Wilson case and all these other cases. And as I've said in the past, I want my viewers to know the law, not just see a case citation, and understand how arrests happen. And so this time I brought on a retired peace officer who I'll let him tell you about himself. But this is going to be basically a lawyer reaction, cop reaction, and we're going to go a little bit into some of the case law that has been brought up as a potential way to get Chile DeCastro's case overturned. But we're also going to look at how a law enforcement officer approaches this, and whether or not this case involved a similar fact pattern as Wilson. Was this a case about speech, or was this a case about officer safety? We're going to go into the balancing test, and we're going to talk a little bit about my new friend, the Angry Texan 25. And it's really brave to get somebody who was a cop to come on a show that's all about doing First Amendment audits and holding the police accountable, because it almost seems like it's an us or against them sort of thing between a lot of these people, which I'm here to tell you right now, that's not true. There are a lot of good cops out there, and there are a lot of bad cops too. I'm not going to deny that. There are a lot of bad politicians who allow these fiefdoms to be created that creates this situation. But Angry Texan 25, I want to go ahead and let him introduce himself, and then we're going to go ahead and do a lawyer reaction, cop reaction on the Chile DeCastro initial arrest video that got him locked up this last time, and have this officer break down what he thinks about the video, what he thinks about the case. Then I'll talk about and distinguish some of this case law that everybody's throwing around all over the internet as if it's some kind of like a magic golden thing that's going to make like gold fall from the sky. And we're going to talk about how to distinguish cases 101 really quick. So go ahead and talk about yourself, Angry Texan. Let's do it.
All right. Well, yeah, that's my least favorite thing to do. I'm lying. I'm a Texan. Everybody knows we love to talk about Texas first. So I grew up here in South Texas. I spent 3 years in a very large city, and then moved to Virginia. Spent time 7 years in law enforcement in a medium-sized city there, and we had some pretty good cases while I was there. And got injured, had a bunch of surgeries, and now I sit around in a trailer talking trash.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about how stress, and I can tell you from being a lawyer, man, it's rough, especially when you got a family. But the stress of law stuff, paperwork, and being able to have to go out and beat the streets and not getting enough rest, dealing with command and all the political correct stuff and all that, how you just, the cortisol buildup is so bad. It's hard to be an officer and be in shape. And
absolutely. Yeah. If you see the pictures right there, the one where I've got the Ram, I was about 220, and then where I'm there with that, I can't remember his name, ABC News, I think. Anyways, yep. I was about 260 there, and within about 6 months of being retired, I lost close to 60 pounds.
Man,
and a lot of it was stress.
Congratulations. Yeah, it is, man. Stress just gets you. And then we were talking a little bit about, how, cops have this reputation for eating a lot of donuts and stuff. And you kind of filled me in on a little inside. So we're going to do some little inside cop secrets. Why don't you tell my audience?
So there's two reasons. The first reason cops love donuts. It's because they're delicious, right? And because you can't lie, they're delicious. All right. Now, the second reason is,
what happened? Did I lose you? Looks like we may have lost him, guys. Hopefully we can get him back. Let me Look at him. There he is in all of his glory. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to myself. Well, y'all can see me at least. Can you guys see me? Do you like my background? It's kind of cool. So hopefully we can get him figured out. I'm gonna hope that he logs back in and we get him squared away. But so far we've gotten pretty far. Okay, we've talked about donuts and cortisol and how that affects you as an officer, and I think that's really important, don't you? Let me see here. Hey, what's going on, Brick? So that's why I have this guy on, you know, because I want you guys to be able to sort of see, you know, the difference between how certain law enforcement officers think. And, you know, a lot of them end up leaving the force because they have been disillusioned. They thought that they were going to go and serve the public and help people, and it didn't turn out that's what ended up happening. But I'm going to go ahead really quick and just play Chile's arrest for you while we try and figure out where this guy is, because I want you to hear what a law enforcement officer would have done and how they would have treated this scene if it would have been him. So a different officer in the same situation in a different jurisdiction, to show you also how random it is as well. It's based a lot on your officer. There are some cops, and I'll tell you some stories of when I was growing up, who really did believe in upholding the peace and stuff like that. So I just wanted y'all to like see that. Let me see here. Hold on one second really quick. Boom, boom. We'll go ahead and put this on this. I'm going to play this for you for a second. Hold on one second. Go ahead and just check this out.
Last time when that date was set, if we could please get a delay and also firm this out definitively do that one.
It's going to be in 2 weeks. This has been going on since June of last year.
And Your Honor, if it could
Get your case.
it's
Said too bad. We're not open.
So hold on one second here. Let me get back over here. All right. So I'll hold off, and hopefully this guy comes back and joins us so we don't lose the theme here. But I'm going to go ahead and check out some of your comments in the sidebar, because it looks like I've stirred up some kind of a hornet's nest over here. And that's not what my intention was. I wanted to have somebody on here who's like a retired cop to tell us about how they would have handled the arrest and why they think this happened, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what happened in this particular arrest that people need to understand. So just let me take a look over here. So they should all retire. Well, I think a lot of them and a lot of the good ones end up retiring. That's for sure. You got that right. Let me just see here. Looks like I've got him coming back in. And hey, bud, you back?
Yeah, sorry about that. T-Mobile, everything crashed.
Hey, no, that's okay, because it looks like now I am gone. Look at that. That's me.
All right. Oh, what happened? Well, howdy, folks. I'm definitely not running this show. Oh, y'all can hear me. That's fun.
Yeah, so you can hear me and I can hear you. Yes?
All right, so I just can't see you.
Yeah, you just can't see me. That's the problem. So, all right. So Brick Jonesy really, you know, one of the guys in the sidebar, he has a real distaste for cops, and a lot of the guys in the audience do, and this and that. And so what I wanted to do is sort of show you
When I get pulled over, like
yeah.
Like the cops make everybody nervous. When I drive by one, I get nervous.
No kidding.
Yeah, even when I was on the street, even when I knew everybody. Yeah. It's instilled from a kid. If you're doing something wrong, they're in an authoritative position, and some people are always going to hate them, and you're not going to change it because they don't like authority figures. I can understand that. It's just a fact of life.
Yeah. So
Jonesy, you're right. They should be law enforcement officers. You're absolutely right. They shouldn't be out there wearing 30 different hats. They shouldn't be out there doing mental health calls. They shouldn't be out there doing calls taking children away from their families. That's not what law enforcement is. You're right. Michael, you still there?
yeah, because you made a comment about people who are around law enforcement officers. They have a tendency to feel guilty or nervous when they're doing something wrong, but a lot of times you're not doing anything wrong and you still feel nervous, and that's what a lot of the people on my channel are worried about. And I've had similar experiences like that.
I don't speed mostly because of the wrecks I've seen, and other people around you can't deal with speeders as well. But no, I'm talking going the speed limit and seeing the cops and thinking, oh, do I have my insurance card? Do I have my registration? Is everything? Oh my gosh, do I have a gun in my truck? Oh, what's today? Everybody gets nervous. Everybody. I mean, probably not Nancy Pelosi. Everybody else.
Well, when we watched the video, we saw Chile walk up to an investigation, and the officer told him to step back. Chile was confrontational and didn't immediately start backing up, but he did. And so my argument is that he was still backing up. And so you have a different point of view on that.
Well,
I wanted you to sort of share that.
So a couple of things. First, when he gets out of the car, do you hear the officer's voice?
Yes.
So you can tell he is nervous, because I was thinking about it yesterday and I rewatched it, and he uses the same phrase over and over a couple of times, and that's one of the indications that you can tell somebody's heart rate's up high and they're kind of stressing out. And so he's a little amped up, right? Because he's got somebody coming into his bubble, right? His little safety bubble that he thought he had.
Okay.
And somebody's just broken that plane. And so he gets out of the car and starts saying, back up, back up, back up. And this guy takes like 2, maybe 3 steps back. That's not going to be sufficient for me. And it tends to look like how do you say that? Antagonistic, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, I'm backing up. Like my 4-year-old does that. Oh, Daddy, I'll put it back. Like, come on.
Well, I've opened it up so you can kind of try to track it a little bit. It's about as big as I'm going to be able to get it, but let me see if I can get the sound going for you here.
In your case,
It's the officer requested that it be Tuesday through Thursday. It's better for him. It could be any day, but
roughly 2 weeks on a Tuesday through Thursday.
So it's right about here. We see the footage.
And like you're unfortunately last time when that
You can see in the upper right corner there.
Definitively do
There's a
that.
little window.
Maybe in
You
2
kind of
weeks.
see
This has been going
officer.
on
He's
since
walking towards
June of
Chile.
last year.
and Your Honor.
We're not getting sound on it, so I'll just go ahead and narrate it. The officer's telling him, get back, get back. He doesn't get back right away. And then he tells the officer he's going to be named in a lawsuit. The officer doesn't go along with it. tells him to keep backing up, which he does. But your thought on this is what?
Is that about where he starts pointing at the car and him? And I'm pretty sure you said that there's a 10-foot rule in California.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what he's talking about? And he's sitting
Yeah.
there like, I'm 10 foot, I'm 10 foot. And so he's just, again, antagonizing the police officer. And the officer so he asks him, and then he tells him, like, you need to back up, or I will be detaining you.
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem with the whole thing is they call it obstruction and resisting arrest. But the whole time he never says arrest, you're under arrest. He only says, I'm detaining you the whole time. That's my only problem, unless I've missed somewhere where he says, all right, you're under arrest.
Okay, so in your jurisdiction, what it sounds like is the officer has to immediately say you're being detained, or that makes it a bad detention?
No, so it's the arrest part, right? So once you say you're under arrest, it's really hard to unarrest somebody. You can do it,
right?
Not a big deal. There's a lot of officers, like in Virginia, that will take somebody down to the magistrate to have them unarrested because they're so worried about the legality of it. And so that's why most officers want to detain somebody. They want to get their name. Why are they there? Why are they filming? What are they doing? Yeah. Right? What's going on? Is this guy a threat to me or other people? So you detain them to investigate.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So now it looks like I've got this thing figured out, guys, and I want to play this for everybody. And it looks like we're going to have some audio. So here we go. This is the Chile DeCastro arrest. And so this woman, give you context, was pulled over, I believe, for no front plates and expired registration and tags. He let her go at some point. We know for sure he let her go on tape, but it appears as though the stop was already over. And so there's an argument that Chile is making that the stop was extended in order to make the arrest of Chile. In other words, the officer would not have had the ability to arrest Chile because if the stop had already been conducted and he'd released her to go on her way. And then Chile would have the right to walk up and film like any other journalist. There would be no safety rule. And so Chile's team is arguing, I think, that because the officer didn't release her right away, even though the stop was officially over, based upon dispatch records that they have, that he's purposefully extended the stop in order to be able to argue the 21-foot safety rule and all these other things. And so I just wanted to give some foundation. I'm going to play this for you guys. And the feedback is from their video. And by the way, Chile's video was never entered into evidence. So we never got to see his crisp footage that you would have seen on YouTube, that you've seen on YouTube of this event. But you can see this girl here. She's probably happy she's going to get to go home. So yeah, a lot of feedback. But you can see it's in a private parking lot, you know.
Is he telling her where to go eat, or what is he doing?
Yeah, I'm not really quite sure. Maybe she's looking for her license to register, but to me it sounded like he was letting her go.
Yeah, she's on her phone.
It's weird.
Unless in Nevada you can show your insurance with your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was probably her proof of insurance.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'm going to kind of let it fast forward a little bit, but you get the idea. So he's doing a traffic stop on her. Then he's at his vehicle. And then Chile starts to approach. We should see this. Here we go. The Power Ranger comes at
I
us,
love
man.
that
Boom.
blue jacket.
So he's saying back up, back up. Is that normal, by the way? Give us some context. Is that like the normal protocol? He's coming up on someone who's been stopped.
Oh, absolutely. The easiest, fastest command that could back up.
Okay.
Anybody can understand it, right? Hey, what are you doing?
And you had
Back up.
training, and you had training in the academy for that, probably, as well as like.
So 2 academies, and then I spent 3 years as a road deputy. I spent doing traffic stops. That's all we did, and we did criminal interdiction.
Okay. Now, did they ever teach y'all like a 21-foot rule or anything like that?
Absolutely. Every academy, and especially when you get to defensive tactics, they talk about how, if they're within 21 feet, they can kill you. So it's not just a little bit, but like a lot. So much that they'll take you into we did it in one of our gyms. They put somebody in the corner and kind of, they're back there kind of sniffling, and it's kind of a role play thing, right? And you go up and you're like, hey buddy, are you okay? Are you okay? And then all of a sudden he turns around and runs at you with a knife.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what they train you for. They train you that everybody, and this guy actually was in a hoodie, right? The one that came at me with the knife. It was rubber, but still it's scary. But they train you to scare you like that. Everybody has a knife. Everybody's going to come after you. If they're within 21 foot, they're a danger. So, yeah.
Well, hold on a minute here. Can you hear me still?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you can kind of see, guys, as usual, I'm losing my video cam for some reason. Maybe it's just that I have a bad Wi-Fi connection. But, okay, so there's some context. So the police are trained in this so-called 21-foot rule, and the courts have upheld safety zones and zones of like danger zones to be pretty much anything within 21 feet. But now filming laws do interfere with that, and there is definitely a problem there, because where do you draw the line between free speech, the right of press, and officer safety, which courts have held there is a compelling state interest in officer safety. So there will be a balancing test between the state's interest in officer safety and the public interest in being able to film the police. And so my goal here is to try and help us understand these laws, so you can all see that there's not a bright line rule, and that the case law, like Wilson, that we're going to go into, has to be properly interpreted, guys, because I don't want you guys to go to jail. I don't want any of you people to land in jail when you can just do a couple other things and learn a few other legal concepts that will make everybody safer and not have to stress so much about this stuff. So that's hopefully my goal, but hopefully we'll figure it out. But let's go ahead and play this, and we'll get an idea of the timing, because a lot of people are saying Chile's guilty. He didn't back up. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. Other people are saying we had no duty to back up because he was filming, involved in a job as a journalist. And I just want you all to see that, that there's two differences of opinion here. And obviously the law enforcement judicial opinion is the one that prevailed here. So you watch, guys, and then I want you to go ahead and narrate for us what you think is an officer.
So he backs up maybe 2-3 feet behind that line, and then sticks his hand in his pocket. So that's the part that, like, a lot of training goes behind. Somebody starts putting their hand in their pocket.
Yeah.
They become a danger.
Right. So what you're saying is he only backed up a little bit, and he was a little bit.
Yeah, 2 or 3 feet, and then starts swaying back and forth, sticking his hand in his pocket, kind of being shifty.
Okay.
So
now,
yeah, I mean, yeah, he's definitely making the guy a little more nervous at that point.
Now would it be
totally nervous? Because you said they might have known who he was.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, would it be different if Like for example, in your city or county, wherever you worked, if you had a First Amendment auditor, or you had somebody, one of these First Amendment rights guys, you know what I mean, a cop watcher, and you knew that he was going to be around town and in local businesses, what's your normal protocol? In other words, do you think there's a chance this cop could have already known who Chile was?
Oh, absolutely. You know how many times people just watch, like people will just sit in the patrol rooms watching videos about these guys? Because the good cops want to be better cops, right?
Okay.
We don't want to go to court. We don't want to be on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to be discussed in somebody's, aftermath report. So yeah,
Okay.
we watch these, and there's a good chance if they knew he was in town, yeah, he knew who he was.
Got it. So,
But he's nervous too because he don't want to be on film. He doesn't want to be on cop watch. Does anybody want anybody going to their job and getting in their face and filming them and telling them they're, pieces of trash? Right? Like, oh, how am I about to react to this? So, no. I mean, I don't blame him for being nervous about the whole thing.
yeah. Okay. Well, that makes more sense. Sure. So the cop himself doesn't want to be on tape, but you can see that he says to Chile, "You're free to film." And I wanted to know if you think that's just a tactic, because you know how like when they're punching you in the face and they say stop resisting, and you're already passed out, but it's part of the training. You always got to say stop resisting.
Probably about 7 years ago, everybody switched to conduct yourself like it's going to be seen in court, right? So it's not that he's afraid to be on tape, because he's got one, although, this guy makes me mad because, he makes his screen like that. He covers up half of it because he's, I'll get them. I don't want to wear this stupid recording tape on my, I'm just going to cover half of it up and the sergeant can kiss my, whatever. So he does that, but still he knows he's on tape. Nobody's got a problem with him anymore. She probably recorded half of it.
That makes sense. That makes perfectly good sense. Let me just see here if I can get any kind of a background back. Because if I can, then it's way cooler. I get more chicks when I have the background.
Nice.
Anyways, so I can tell. Okay, so let me just tell you let me tell you the backstory. So I had, I had a bunch of people assigned as moderators to this channel. I don't know how they all got there, but there were a lot. I probably just a retard because I'd never done live chats or anything. So I made a bunch of people moderator, and then all these people started complaining. And we had a guest who was on a couple of days ago, one of our actual guests who we invited on, and she was blocked from being able to post comments. And then I got a bunch of other people, and then like about probably 15 or 20 of my lawyer buddies who have been following me for the last like 14 years. They unsubscribed from me because they said that they were blocked from commenting. And sometimes they'll come in and play devil's advocate on my threads, right? So they're like, F this guy, right? And I'm like, no, don't unsubscribe. And then my mom got blocked. So she didn't unsubscribe, but she was blocked. So I just, I wasn't sure what's going on. So I just like removed all the moderation. And what I'm trying to do is see, am I being hacked? Because Miss Constitutional Rights said her whole YouTube channel was hacked. So if that's the case, by me not having any administration or anything in effect, including myself, I'll be able to tell over the last few days if anybody got banned or anybody got blocked. It's because somebody like got my password or whatever. You know what I mean? Like just try to figure it out. So anyways, I'm glad I got my backdrop back. So what you're saying basically is that the rule is that you guys, it's ingrained in you that you've got like 21 feet that you have to feel safe. And based on your experience as testifying and being a witness and being called on behalf of the state, do you find that the courts ever find in favor of the defendant when the police are arguing that they didn't have enough safe space?
I mean, do I see these cases dismissed all the time? Yes,
Yeah.
I was in a very liberal city. Yeah.
Got it.
Dismissed all the time.
Yeah, because it's a nonviolent crime. Right. That's my thought too. How ridiculous. the nonviolent crime. This guy's a buddy of mine too. So, I'm like, you got to understand, I'm going to always side with him because that's just what you do when you're someone's friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I am biased. So, but I want and desperately need to hear the other side of the story. And I'm not saying that you're like the dark side of law enforcement, but you're retired. So that tells me that you figured out enough to know that that's not the career path you wanted to stick with. And I'm hoping that my audience will give you a bunch of ones for having the balls to show up here, because it was really hard to get you to come on. And I really do appreciate you coming out, because
I can tell how much they love me over there. It's
yeah. But I hope that they'll have enough respect, like for you coming here to tell us how you would have handled it and how the law enforcement community thinks about it. Because it's really hard for me to get anybody to even think twice about coming on here. So it took a lot for you to come on here, and I really appreciate it a lot. And I'm hoping, because I know that bzwatchdog, he's a friend of mine. He's a Force Recon Marine, and he's in Texas, and he does sort of these non-confrontational audits. And what I was hoping on is maybe you guys could do an interview on his channel too, about maybe going over some of his videos, because what he wants to do is be able to get stuff on film without people getting arrested, because he's more logical, about just trying to like stay out of trouble and not having to spend all this thousands of dollars on court expenses and all that, because it gets crazy.
Well, I can tell you how to do that, and you'd stop everybody'd stop getting arrested. All of these guys are wearing cameras. Most of this footage is FOIAble. You can go in, FOIA who's been complaining about officers. You get those officers' body cameras, and then you get dirt on them. That's how you do it.
Yeah, but I got to tell you,
bad officers.
I got to tell you something. In my defense, as a lawyer, 9 times out of 10, anything that's exculpatory, in other words, something that's going to help my client, and anything that's going to hurt the officer is going to have been recorded over, or be missing, or have like a lot of feedback to where I'm telling you, man, it's all the time. And that's why, yes, sir, I'm telling you. And that's why, but you don't have to believe me. I'm just telling you my experience. That's why I really do side with my people who come on my channel to a large degree, because I know that people treat them like they're crazy, but I know that they're telling the truth because I've seen it happen. I know it's happened. I got beat up over a parking ticket, so it's plausible it could happen to them. And so I have a special place in my heart for them. But at the same token, I need them to understand that there are people like you out there, and they're charged by the state to do a job. And a lot of them, like me being a Marine, I thought I was joining to serve my country and do what was right by my fellow man. And then I started reading books by Smedley Butler, and I learned that the Gulf of Tonkin massacre, which ended up getting my dad cancer from Agent Orange, was all made up and just bull crap. It wasn't real. And we find out years later that we were lied to. And over time, I started to become a critical thinker. And so I just want everybody to know, like, it was really hard for me to get this gentleman to come on here. And I hope that you'll give him a little bit of a respect and let him come back on again without hating on me as well too much, because we need to hear what other people have to say, especially him, because he's given us a lot of inside secrets that we'd never hear about. So I'm going to go ahead and keep playing this, and you just tell me what you think. So I'm just telling you right there, he's saying, I'm going to name you in a lawsuit. I'm just warning you, I'm a journalist. I'm engaged in a First Amendment protected activity. And that's on other film, by the way. Okay, guys. Now he's saying, get back in your cruiser, little doggy, I think. And that's when he said you're being detained. So tell me right now, is that resisting right there? I mean, you tell me.
Is this what?
Is that resisting?
No, it wouldn't hold up in any court that I've been in.
Okay.
Just going like this? No, that's not active resistance.
Okay, and you see that he pulled his phone out of his other pocket, right? So just tell me about the officer's training, okay? Here's what I mean, I was in the Corps, like I don't have law enforcement training, but they train us to look at their hands, right? Check out their hands.
Wait till that hand goes in that back pocket. A lot of the traffic guys that I've worked with,
boom,
right there would have taken that hand that he's got the one camera in and put him on the ground.
Okay, so here's look, I'm kind of like an old gumshoe, right? I love old Nancy Drew, Hardy Boy mystery books and all that stuff. I used to love that stuff. I'm telling you guys, I think this cop knew who Chile was.
That's why I think he didn't put hands on him like that.
I think he knew who he was already, and he testified at trial that he didn't. And that's why I was asking for help from y'all to look through all the Chile footage from Nevada to see if you recognize that officer. And then also if Miss Constitutional Rights is on here, shoot me an email, because I would like to do a public records request, get some help with that, because I'm buried right now. I'm starting.
Yeah, but Michael, he'll pull well, I knew of him, but I didn't know him.
I understand that, but it
Right.
might be the basis for a new trial, maybe.
Good.
You know,
I mean,
You know.
I like your last slide on your presentation there.
I'm just trying to come up with different things, because everybody's rooting against him, and I believe that the arrest itself was unwarranted. You could say that it's lawful, just like people in Germany, post Weimar Republic, could say carting people off to concentration camps was lawful.
Just because it's lawful doesn't make it right.
That's right. And in this case, when I worked over at the prosecutor's office, my lead attorney always told me that your job as a prosecutor is to do justice first. And so a lot of cases never got filed because of justice. So you're supposed to think about the effect on the family, about the effect on society, not just try and get convictions. And that's what I loved about the old school people who were public servants. And now they're all like, you got to go to Harvard and get a job in government. So you use that as your political ladder to success. But the old school guys just wanted to be lifers and be a prosecutor all their life. They didn't care about anything else. Just like the Marines, they want to be lifers. Now they want to get out and be influencers, right? You join the Navy SEALs, do your stint, and be an influencer.
There's still a lot of
crazy.
cops that just want to be cops. They just want to be beat cops. And you know what? They typically get the most complaints. They typically do the most work. They typically, look, you're going to get into situations, you're going to have a bad day because you're a human being, and you might say a cuss word at somebody.
Yeah.
Or, on a bad day. There's this horrible video of this cop that just beat the tar out of this kid while he was being antagonized. I forget where it came out of. We had to do some of that sensitivity training, and then you learn. So the guy that did our training had actually been to that department, and you find out his wife had kicked him out. His dog died. His life was a country song from the 80s, and he'd had a bad day. Does that excuse him beating the tar out of that kid? No. But it is the reason, and these are the things that sometimes guys are going through when they break. Should that guy ever be a cop again? Probably not. He can't hold it together when it's getting kind of thick. So maybe he should go do something else. It's just we're humans and people forget.
Well, so a lot of people, especially a lot of Chile's people, and I appreciate what they're saying. They think that there's no such thing as a good cop because there's no such thing as a peace officer anymore. So that's something that I do want to explore more. But really quick, Avelia Gill pointed out that if it could be caught on the recording when somebody gets nervous, what do they say? Well, hold on a minute. This one. So why don't you bring up when the cop was sitting for 9 minutes in his car, knowing that he already pulled up to that lady, and he had nothing to do until Chile showed up? Okay, so here's what's going on, and this is the argument is that when you pull someone over, it's only supposed to last for just the few minutes that it takes to identify them, give them a ticket, and let them go, and that 9 minutes is clearly too long for any kind of traffic stop. And that he was already done with the stop and he released her, as we saw in the video. And so basically her argument and Chile's argument, I think also is that she'd already been released, that the stop was basically over. And the officer extended the stop and extended his law enforcement power like tentacles over to Chile in order to arrest Chile and put him in the torture cuffs, right? That's the argument, extending the stop. So the question that I have for you, are you familiar with that concept that if there's
so there are no hard fast rules on how long a stop is. There's been a lot of case law, like even if you're waiting for a dog, what is reasonable to wait for a dog if you're looking for drugs on somebody's car? The reasonable amount of time is until the dog gets there. So what was he doing? He could have been just ticked off. He could have been still eating his sandwich, running returns, doing a warrant check. Maybe she was hot and he was like, checking her on social media while he waited for the return. There's a lot of stuff to do during, even if you're writing a warrant. Although the FBI just took that rule away, and somebody should question them about that, because now they don't have to report who all they pull over,
right?
Which is a huge problem, because now you don't have to do any racial profiling. You don't have to tell anybody who you're pulling over. So, so that's hopefully what he was doing. He was recording all her information on a piece of paper, press hard, 3 copies, right? Getting all the information down, race, weight, everything, and then going back and giving her copy, hopefully. Why did it take 9 minutes? Again, I don't know. Maybe he was eating his chips.
I gotcha. Okay, so I have seen case law that talks about traffic stops and the reasonableness of the time period. And you're right, there is no hard and fast rule. But to me, just between you and me, I think 9 minutes is a long time. And I think based upon watching this, just you and me being dudes and, probably we're carousers back in our day based on the way we look, I would say I think there's something else going on here. Put in the comments if you think this cop was trying to get a date. But let's kind of see what's going on here. Okay, so right there he says, "Come over here to my car." What do you think about that? Does that automatically give Chile the duty to follow him to his car?
I mean, is he following? Is it a lawful command? Is what you got to ask, right? So he's told him he's detained. Is it a lawful command to tell him to come back to his car? I mean, he's already kind of, by not taking control of the situation and not taking control of Chile, he's tried to reach for his arms 3 times, right? He's tried to take him in control. He knows he's not in control of the situation. And he's trying to bargain with him. So is it a lawful command? I mean, probably, maybe in that court, if that judge says, well, he was detained. So, I mean, that's a hard one. It's a hard one. Ask, tell, make, and he hasn't made him do anything yet.
So, okay, so
which is kind of what we're told. So that's one of the things we're taught, right? You ask them to do something, you tell them to do something, and then you make them do something.
Okay, so everybody, so I hope you guys are glad. Somebody give me some ones, because I'm super glad I had him come on. Look, I do civil rights law, and I have to hire use of force experts all the time. Well, not all the time, but the rare occasion when we get a case that we're able to bring where it makes sense. This kind of stuff is golden. You guys are getting information that you're not going to get anywhere else. Tell us again. So it's make,
ask, tell, make.
So, okay, first you ask, like, can I have your ID? Mind showing me your ID? I need your ID. And then you need to give me your ID or I'm going to throw you in my car, kind of thing.
No, right? No, because I tried my best to be the man that my mother raised, right? I tried to be polite on every stop, on every interaction. Hi, I'm Officer Trammell. I wouldn't tell you the reason you're pulled over yet, because people want to fight about it as soon as you tell them why. So, I'm a deputy or I'm a police officer. Can I have your license and insurance, please? Right? Okay, well, why'd you pull me over? Look, we'll get to that. I'm going to need you to give me your driver's license and insurance before we can get into that. Right? Now I've told you to do it.
Right.
I really never had a problem after that. People, they're like, because I don't want to pull something. If I have to put my hands on somebody and pull somebody out of a car, that's not a good day. Yeah. Right? I just want to get done with the stop and go on to the next one.
That makes sense. And look, I'd be the same way. Like, I couldn't imagine having to put a homeless dude in the back of my car. The smell and all that. Like, man.
You ever
No
had
thanks.
somebody pee in your car?
I've never had to be a cop, but I know what you mean. Yeah, I have. I had a limousine company, and I had like especially drunk ladies pee all over the back of the car, or dudes, drinking too much, throwing up. It's the worst, man. Ooh.
Meth heads, meth and heroin. I had a lady fill up the floorboard of my Charger.
Oh God!
It was
You
so
never get
good.
that smell. You'll never get the smell out. Ever.
She goes, "Sir, I'm sick." I'm like, "Yeah, you're sick, all right." That's
Ooh,
just gross.
Now, look, I guarantee you, if I say give a bunch of ones, if you're happy that happened to you, they're probably all going to give a bunch of ones. But seriously, folks, I'm super happy that he's on here. So remember, it's ask,
tell, make.
ask, tell, make. So that's part of law enforcement training. So
That's what we're told, right? That's
yeah. All right.
Because
So
if they're not going to do it the first 2 times,
so when we're looking at this video, we're looking at this cop. Number one, the cop goes ahead and he sees Chile could be going for a gun, right? He's going for his cell phone.
and then the way he pulls it out too.
Boom! Yeah, it doesn't do anything. No officer safety, and you can see on Chile's footage, no issue. At trial, the officer said there's not a safety issue. So I guess the point I'm trying to make, brother, is this whole 21-foot argument that they made, the officer safety
That's
argument,
where it makes it null and void.
just doesn't make any sense.
Right. That's where he doesn't illustrate a fact that he is not concerned, because when he doesn't make him, he's not concerned anymore, right? Come on, come over to my car, buddy. Just come over to my car. We're going to go have a little talk. He's not worried about that guy. He just wants to get him over there. That's where I have a problem with this whole arrest, is because he's not worried about him. And that's why he said he was being detained, because, well, he scared me. I was worried with the 21-foot rule.
That's right.
But he's not concerned about it.
That's right, man. That's exactly right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep playing this, because I think you and I are on the same team on that one. That it just doesn't. There's no officer safety problem. Let's keep watching.
I mean, no, he knows that dude's in way better shape than him. The way he's stretching out that hoodie. Look at that guy.
Yeah, Chile's in shape, man. The dude's a stud, man. He works out, I think, 5-6 days a week.
I mean, he looks like an MMA fighter.
He's an animal. His neck is like super thick. Like, I don't even know if I could get him in a triangle choke if I had him on the mats. His neck is so thick, I don't even think I'd get my legs around him. He's thick, man. I'm going to keep playing this. You're being detained for obstruction. He's walking towards his car. So listen, belligerent, right? But compliant. That would be my observation. Belligerent but compliant.
Yes. Okay, so this is when his buddy pulls up too.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and keep on playing. That was messed up, in my opinion. That's just how I feel about it.
I mean, I've never seen any defensive tactics where you grab somebody's shirt like that and start like jerking them around. That's just my.
I gotcha, but I guess what I'm trying to do.
The cop he's stressed out at that point. I'm not saying he's right for what he did, but he doesn't know what to do because this guy's not listening. I'm the police. Everybody listens to me.
Well, of course, and that's we know that's pretty common. You have to take control, and that's part of the deal. A lot of these people on my channel and myself, we wish that law enforcement would go back to traditional peacekeeping instead of being law enforcers. What's that?
Oh, I used to walk a beat. I love to walk my neighborhoods.
So
my apartment complexes. That's when people knew you.
Yeah, what I'm trying to point out is that I understand all their arguments that you just shouldn't do the job at all, but okay. So now you do the job because you're an idealist, like I was when I joined the Corps, right? You're an idealist. You think you're going to change the world. You think you're going to save people. And yeah, one cop at a time, or, a small sheriff's department. There are departments. You go to Montana, you'll meet sheriffs out there that are pretty legit. But, you go into that job and you find out that it's the politicians, it's the mayor, it's the city planners, it's all these guys getting paid off by the local corporations that are behind all these insidious laws that they're making you enforce, and they turned you into a revenuer. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is all you people should be more concerned about having a way to verify elections, that they're actually legit. So you have the confidence of knowing that it was real. I suggest paper ballots and voter ID, and that you get involved and get some of these stupid laws off the books. Like Eric Garner, he gets choked out over a Lucy cigarette. Homeless people are going over to Jersey to buy cigarettes because they can stand in front of a cigarette store in New York and sell Lucy cigarettes because there's no tax. Because New York's tax is outrageous, right? To where it's like you want to close down your business because nobody wants to buy from you anymore. So what do they do? The politicians, the mayor, because they want to keep their campaign funding coming in from the only people left in the city who can generate money, which are retail outlets. And they go ahead and they end up killing this guy because they're told to radically and strictly enforce these loose cigarette laws. So a guy who's got mental illness gets killed by the police, and I can't breathe becomes the rallying cry for BLM. But at the end of the day, it was politicians and their stupid laws that caused this. And when you have a job in law enforcement or any other kind of career, you're going to get caught up in this whirlwind, and you may still think you can do some good from the inside. I'm by no means trying to be a lawyer or advocate for law enforcement or the bad cops that are out there, but I am saying that we cannot always assume that every single person in there is totally bad, and that there may be some people trying to do good. And I have one who showed up today who's at least sharing with us what his observations are, and I hope you all give him the time of day. But
you know what got me in the most trouble when I was a police officer is when I would tell people to go to city council meetings or talk to their city councilman about their problems, because I would get called in, to the whipping post every time, because that's who has us out in certain areas, enforcing certain laws, doing certain things. It always comes from the top. Somebody from city council complains to somebody in brass, tells somebody with stripes, tells the beat cop. You want to know why the beat cop's there? Because somebody told him to be there. Vote, people. Vote local.
Well, I appreciate that. So there's a bunch of comments in the sidebar, and I want to try to address some of them. So we have a real hostile audience, so I appreciate you taking this. So I just want to try to find a couple of them. So one of the questions is how many people did you turn in who were bad? And I get that. I hear that a lot. You don't have to answer that. I mean, if you don't.
What was the question?
How many? Hold on. Do you know? Hold on. How many? Well, if you guys have questions for him, put them in the sidebar, and if he wants to answer them, I'll tell him to answer them. Just put them down there. Anybody wants his perspective. I guess everybody is under the impression that being a cop is like Serpico. Like if you're not like Serpico, that you're not a good cop. And I think that there are times. You tell us your observations. How do guys on the force deal with someone when they know that they're an untrustworthy officer? Do they just try not to go on patrols with them? How is that? How do you deal with that?
So that's a difficult question, because I did see somebody ask that question. If you're such a good cop, how many did you turn in?
Yeah. How many bad cops did you turn in? Yeah.
So in 10 years, 2. And it's one of the hardest things you'll do. But what's that experiment where only like 15% of people do the right thing, or 10% of people do the right thing?
Yeah.
Merriam's experiment. It's hard. It's because you have to be sure of what's going on. And then if you go in to talk to the IA sergeant, everybody talks about it. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like that discouragement that, he went to oh, and now this is happening. It was
Yeah.
him. And
So
then,
there is a culture. There definitely is a culture that
absolutely,
don't-
because it's a brotherhood, right? You don't
Yeah.
you don't go stomp on your brother, but if you
Yeah.
can't trust your brother, if you can't, and that was the problem, right? And that's why I didn't have a problem doing it, because if a cop gets there and he's on scene and he has to worry about somebody else behind him that either doesn't have his back or maybe doesn't have his best interest at heart, that's what you have to worry about. And when you're in a patrol room, if you don't trust the guy next to you and you've got a stack of warrants, what if he knows somebody that's on that stack of warrants, right? You can't trust that guy. You're going to go do that warrant. That's the cop that gets shot at the door.
That's right. And
So,
you see that a
we don't
lot.
want bad cops.
Yeah. Well, so I guess the problem is there's a culture against, well, there's always going to be a culture against being a rat. Let's face it. But when you're a public servant, it's not really like a biker club where you take an oath till death. It's a job working for a municipal corporation. And that's something that I want law enforcers to understand. Municipal police, traditionally, their job was to protect the government and government installations. And we saw that with the Rodney King riots. Municipal police, as a general duty, have no duty to protect individuals. There are very limited cases where they would have a direct duty, but most of us saw in the Uvalde massacre that duty is very narrow and limited. In fact, the woman who rescued her children, who escaped her handcuffs, Child Protective Services went ahead and took away her children. So I just want you people to understand the administrative state, Uvalde massacre, the school where.
Oh man, I was 26 miles away.
Tell me how you feel about those cops not going in, that it took a border patrol off-duty guy who was getting a haircut down the street to basically give them the finger and say, either you follow me in or I'm going in by myself, to go in there. How does that make you feel? Municipal police have no duty to protect people is a general rule. You tell me how you think about that.
So that's a hard one. I haven't looked at all the case information on the Uvalde. I stopped looking at a lot of stuff when I retired.
Yeah.
Just so I could get right with myself. It get me amped up too much, and then that happened. And from what you see, you would say they didn't do it. They didn't do enough. And I want to say, like, okay, well, nobody knew who was in charge. Nobody knew who this, but we're trained. You go in the doors. I mean, you have the old school guys that were trained after the LA riots. They were all trained. You show up, you make a perimeter, and you wait for SWAT, right? After the LA shootout happened.
They're taught to set up a perimeter and not go in there and take action.
Exactly,
but they'll lie to but they lie to the parent. They'll do like a parent meeting where, hey, come to the meeting, meet the police, and they'll lie and say, oh no, we'll go in there and get your kids right away. But that's not what they're going to do. What their job is to set up a perimeter.
It changed after Columbine and a couple of the other shootings. Southwest Texas is now Texas State, or no, backwards. Anyway, they did a bunch of studies and they put together a whole program that you go through that goes, and it teaches you how to go in singles, doubles, triples. You go in the door and everybody takes that class. Everybody goes in. So when I saw that, I couldn't imagine where they got their class from, because you just go in the door.
Man, I
can't explain what was happening.
So, bro, here's how I feel about it. There's legal duties and there's moral duties. And as a man, your moral duty is to put yourself in between danger and women and children. That's the primary function of why God put men on this planet, as far as I'm concerned. And if you got some case law or some law that says that that's not a duty and not to worry about it, that might prevent you from getting sued. Well, I hope you get yours in the afterlife then, because that's just pure cowardice. And it's your job, man. You don't have any choice in the matter. Now, just real quick.
No, it's not even about jobs. It's your moral obligation.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, that's right.
There were children in that freaking school that needed to be saved, and there were men outside that didn't do the duty.
Yeah, hey, bzwatchdog's back. Real quick, I want to introduce you to bzwatchdog. He's a former Marine. I think you had some experience with Marines or something at some point. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was there for a month till I went deaf. Or well, until they figured out I was deaf.
And then we got, hold on. We got, and then Brick Jones, he says, just be a man, 100 exactly. So I really like Brick. Brick is a total William Wallace personality type. Totally like somebody that I know I could do CQB classes with and know that he wouldn't like put off a loose round by mistake. You know, he's one of these kind of guys. So I just really quick wanted to, because I want to stay on point with this, guys, because there's a lot of talk about the Wilson case, all right? And you being a cop and all, you saw the video. The video was real clear. The video was real clear, man. It showed you that the officer continually said, you know, so there has a plausible excuse that it's cool to film, but I need you to get back further. All right. Aside from the other arguments of extending the stop, I want people to understand how to distinguish case law. It's very important. If you're going to cite cases and start spitting them off or say, hey, do you know about public forum rule and all that? Understand that for every statute, there's going to be a judicial case, probably state or federal, that can distinguish that, help you understand it, explain it, or overrule it, or expand on it. And the way you learn about that is to find the case, and you do this process us lawyers called shepherdizing. But even before you get to that, you need to look at the facts of your case and the actual case that you're citing as authority. And remember, there's mandatory authority and persuasive authority. Persuasive authority may be a case from another judicial district or jurisdiction that may not necessarily be in your local area, maybe even in another state. If it's federal, it might be persuasive, but mandatory authority would be a case like a Supreme Court case. So if you find the mandatory authority case, what you want to do is you want to distinguish the facts of the mandatory authority case with your case, or you want to compare the facts to show that it's on point with what they argued. And in Wilson, it didn't involve an arrestee being too close to the police. The stated reason, or one of the stated reasons or plausible reasons for the arrest was that Wilson was being disruptive with words, yelling, screaming, cussing. And that's, although Chile did do that here, the issue of the arrest, apparently, based upon what I could extrapolate from my experience as a lawyer watching the trial, the issue with his case was an officer safety issue, but we did see the officer close the 21-foot gap to make the arrest, so he still was backing up. But then again, we have an officer here who's now retired in Texas saying, well, you know, he probably wasn't backing up fast enough for the officer to feel safe. And that's the problem, guys, is that is an argument that a prosecutor could make, that a jury could decide. I want you to tell us, as an officer, how many trials do you think you've been through where you've had to testify offhand? Do you think you've had to do? I mean, you've got experience. I'm trying to lay a foundation. How much experience do you think you have doing these? 100?
So
10
just
of them?
in traffic stops or in court? Because I mean,
any appearance where you've had to testify on behalf of the people?
I mean, let's see, in 7 years, we had to go to court at least 3 times a month. And yeah, like those were my court days, right? Because you don't want to set up a court day for every other day. Yeah. So I'd have, 4 or 5 cases a day for, the last 7 years of my career. Because court days in Texas for traffic law aren't as bad, right? Because I'd have like 6 in one day because nobody'd show up. They just pay them. Yeah. Or I'd have none. So, yeah. But I hundreds, right?
Yeah. So hundreds. So you've got a lot of experience. You've seen how judges and courts act. And I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that we're in Nevada. I'm Texas lawyer. You're in Texas. bzwatchdog's in Texas. But we're talking about a Nevada case. But we know that the academies almost mirror each other in training and methodology, right? I mean, that's pretty standardized.
Yep.
So we know municipal police have that. And I'm sure you have training that people are allowed to engage in free speech as long as they're not interfering with your stop. So
sovereign citizens. Yeah. We also have the sovereign citizen movement. I got lucky in Texas because I was a deputy constable and we're enumerated by the Constitution. So that kind of helped.
So they give you a little bit more street credibility because well, that's actually kind of cool.
It was nice. We didn't, oh man, SAPD and the other, they did not like them. They were fine with us.
Yeah. So I just wanted to like sort of distinguish what was going on here with this. So yeah, obstruction has to be a physical act. Okay, so I get all that. So, but let's just kind of get into this. So in Wilson, there was no obstruction here because it only applies to physical conduct or fighting words that are specifically designed to hinder, delay, or obstruct. But here, that's not what happened. So Wilson's a great case, but in Chile's case, in my opinion, it's not so much about him filming and more about the officer knew Chile wasn't a threat. And the officer didn't behave as if Chile was a threat. He actually closed the distance to make it more of a threat by getting within the 21 feet. He clearly had poor officer safety, or he knew that Chile wasn't a threat. It's one of the two. He's a crappy officer because Chile could have drawn down on him, could have had a little 38 in there, a little 380 auto, could have ended that guy's life in a heartbeat.
Yep.
He could have pulled out a buck knife and sliced half that dude's head off before he had any reaction time with that distance. I'm just telling you, man. That's
crazy
what
doesn't stop. Yeah, crazy doesn't stop. It could have
been. It don't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely, PCP guy could just rip something, crackhead, but he knew Chile wasn't a threat. The guy's in shape. He looks like a movie star. The way he presents himself, he acts like an actor or somebody trained. He's passionate. He's debonair and charismatic and all that. He's not your typical street guy asking for money. He's clearly there for
a tree trunk for a neck.
And he's got a tree trunk for a neck. Yeah, the guy's an animal. And my contention is that this isn't even, I don't even think we have to get to Wilson. I think that the cop knew who Chile was. I think those other cops hate his guts too, who know who he is. And I just think that this presented a great opportunity. Why not? Plausibly, Chile is not acting right. Let's just make the arrest. He called me a doggy, right? The cop kind of knew he screwed up. The DA even recommended a suspended sentence in anger management classes.
For real.
Yeah. And he goes in there and the cop, like the bailiff was a punk, and he snatched Chile's phone out of his hand, which is not a good thing to do. I think it was a battery while Chile was trying to hand his cell phone to the DA. So I just think it was just not cool the way the whole thing went down. I think they treated Chile like garbage. Because of his speech, but after the arrest, I think that the speech probably was the reason for the arrest, but the officer used safety as a pretext to interfere with his speech. But I want what you have to say as a reasonably trained officer. What do you think about it? And tell the audience. Break it down and look at questions they might have. And let's answer them. I'm going to put you up on the screen, and I'll try to shoot some off to you as well if I see any good ones.
The Scope Kid was probably one of the first ones. And we talked about that a couple days ago, about how when the first danger is when he is close to that. But that's what the officer says. He says, "Get away from my driver."
Yeah.
Right. And that is one of the first things he says.
Yeah. That is what he does. Now, hold on a minute. I want you to read this one. So it says, so I always like Abelia Gill because she, I think she might secretly be a lawyer or a paralegal because she has good questions. So she's saying Chile was on the opposite side where the cop and the lady can see him. So it was very safety. Well, she's typing fast, but you get the gist. Mm-hmm. The cop didn't worry about his safety because he went after him when he was done with the spot. So
I'm willing to stop. I still don't know when, because in the case she talks about his stop wasn't concluded until he turned off his camera, and I guess that's when when he let her go, or is that when he turned off the lights?
I guess what he did is he went to his car. I think he turned off his lights, and then Chile walks up as he's walking over to her, I guess, to let her go, and he says, "You're free to leave." And then he's 100% focused on Chile.
Okay, so he does tell her she's free to leave.
Yeah.
Little interaction, because I never caught that part.
Yeah, I know, it's real, dude. I'll try to find it here.
If he says you're free to leave,
yeah,
what was Chile obstructing?
And you know what? It's
like it should have been. It's the whole case is over right there.
Yeah, so he walks past her. I think it's on Chile's footage. Actually, it may not even be on the cop's footage. that's the problem we have with these body cams, brother, is like they record over them. And
Right.
yeah, you can't really hear them. But so right around here, I'm going to show you.
Well, Axon, so he's wearing an Axon body cam, and depending on, is that, you said they're county, municipal, whole shebang, right? They probably don't even store their own videos. They're stored by Axon.
Well, somehow or another, when I've dealt with Axon or any of the other ones, brother, they find somehow or another the tape will be recorded over, a whole section will be missing, or the audio is gone. And
that happens all the time because they're crap. They roll it out and it just half of it doesn't work.
But it's just weird that it's always the section that I needed to win my case. But here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play this back. You can see the officer is now, he's kind of standing next to the lady. This is where he's telling her, you're free to go. All right, right around this time. He's kind of telling the cop, look, I'm far enough away. F you, little doggy, get back in your car. So right around here, he looks over and tells her she's free to leave. So right before that, he told her that she was free to go. You don't even hear it on his audio, but you see it on Chile's audio and video. And that's why I'm still kind of blown away.
Yeah, for real.
You know, that his footage wasn't, you know what I mean? It's kind of bad.
And they wouldn't use his footage in court?
It was never entered into evidence. And so I'm thinking, you know, why aren't we filing a motion for a new trial based on new evidence that the officer knew? Like, why couldn't we find out if there was a training where they mentioned Chile and if that officer attended it? And then we show that he was dishonest on the stand, and then try to use that as a basis for a new trial. That's where I would go. But I'm not
you're not gonna find any minutes or notes that say Chile's name. That's foiable. Unless they put it in an email, like a citywide email.
Or like the name of his channel, DeleteLawz or something like that.
Yeah, they're not going to put that. They're just going to put mandatory, like, meeting.
Well, I would do like YouTube, First Amendment, auditors, how to deal. You know, I would narrowly tailor it. But you're probably right. I mean, everybody who thinks you're going to get stuff, these people are really well trained in how to evade and avoid providing documents. But,
oh, shoot. You know how bad it is? You want to talk about just making you mad. So we would have, you would ask like one of the Commonwealth's attorneys or the district attorneys for advice on a case. Hey, which way should I go with this? And you email it to them because you want an email back. Can we file charges for this? Do we file charges?
Yeah, that's right.
Can we do this? You know what happens every single time? Oh, hi, officer. Hi, I was calling you back.
Yeah, always.
They don't want to put it in writing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's true. So that's another thing, guys. They're pretty slick about this. So that's why I'm so shocked that the FBI and CIA keeps getting caught red-handed spying on us. You'd think they must really hire some morons to run their admin because they don't know what they're doing.
Oh, I've got theories on that. Don't get me started.
Gosh, but I want to look at some more of the. By the way, give me a bunch of free Chiles because I still want Chile to be free, and I still think that his arrest was unnecessary, and I think there were a lot of pretextual reasons to arrest him, and I think that there's a lot more to this layer cake than meets the eye. But I also am not I don't want to be branded as a conspiracy theorist, and I think the best way to learn is to get an expert from the other side engaged, because as a lawyer, that's what I have to do. I have to hire experts to counter the expert of the other guy. And I don't like just citing case law. Like, for example, the Hibble case, that's when you're hearing a lot about Chile's case. And it had to do with a conviction not violating someone's rights. I think when Nevada used to require, I can't even remember. But the bottom line is it had to do with vague and ambiguous statutes and specific and general intent crimes, and whether or not Chile was capable of forming the specific intent of obstructing or hindering. And here the hindering wasn't his words, guys. It wasn't his speech. The hindering was being in the danger zone. And that was the pretextual reason, I believe, to arrest Chile. And give me a bunch of ones if you think that that's a sound theory. Because, look, I'm not the best lawyer by any means, but I think things through, and I've done a lot of appellate law. I was an extern for the California Court of Appeal, and I consider myself to be a relatively intelligent guy passed the bar exam before I got a law degree and got a law degree after I was already a practicing lawyer. So I think that I'm pretty good about this. And I just want you to know that these two cases may not have the same application that people think that they're going to have. Now, the last thing I wanted to get into is about the cop extending the traffic stop. And this is something that you're probably an expert at, being a law enforcement dude. And the idea is that if you're making an arrest and there's some ancillary activity going along, it's within that enforcement zone, for lack of a better word, you sort of all of the protections and qualified immunity that you would have from that initial stop would extend to that buffer zone. And so the argument that Chile's making, and a lot of the people here on the sidebar, is that was an unlawful extension of the traffic stop for the pretextual reason of arresting or detaining Chile. And I wanted to see if any of that holds water based on what you've seen or your training or your understanding of what that means to extend a traffic stop.
So I don't know that he was extending the traffic stop. The whole time thing, you could debate that for years, and they have been. As a pretext for his arrest, I have a hard time. Once he releases that young lady, he's already said she's free to leave. He hasn't said, I'm detaining you for any reason. The stop is clearly over. If I was his lawyer, that's what I would be going after.
So so sort of like their argument, but from a different point of view. The stop was over. There was no reason to even interact with Chile. She's leaving. I'm getting in my cruiser. This guy's not going to come any closer than the 10 feet he's already staying at. You know, he's not going to, I've already told him to get back. He's taking a few steps back. It's when Chile said little doggy, right? But see, that calls for subjective feelings of knowing what subjectively was going through the officer's mind. And I just don't think enough of a record was developed that, you know, as a lawyer. And by the way, you being law enforcement, you kind of understand what that means, right? To be able to lay a foundation, build evidence,
right?
Because you're part of a prosecutorial team. So you pass the torch of prosecutorial power. It's like a torch. It can be likened to a torch. You pass that on to the prosecutor's office, and then they ultimately pass it on to the judge, and then the judge passes that torch on to a jury. In this case, the judge was the jury. So you're part of that team,
right? And so my base is my report. Right. And so when you're writing a report, you need to have all of the elements of the crime in there because you're passing that on. Right. So, you know, your who, what, where, when, why. And why is one of those subjective things. Right. Because, you know, I might have to make an assumption unless I can get you to tell me why. That's not usually included. But all of that who, what, where, when, why, the elements of the offense have to be in that report to pass that basis, to pass that torch on to the next person, onto the judge, onto the jury, and the defense, right? What does his report look like? Does he say, "Oh, I let the lady go, and then I told him you're detained now," and then I told him he's detained again and again, and then he walked towards my car, like,
right?
What does his report look like? I really, as soon as she was released, everything, it was over, right?
That's what I think too. Yeah.
Did he even get on the radio? Hey, radio base, I've got somebody here at my stop. Send me back up.
Yeah. So the stop was over. He'd already called. He calls for backup. It looks like after
all
the stop.
all calm, like, hey, I got it coming over.
Yeah.
He wasn't excited.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that kind of leads you to believe that maybe he was intending on arresting him.
That's what I was thinking too, is that maybe there was more to this ball of wax than meets the eye. But my suspicions are that he just didn't want to be filmed and he just used the safety law as a pretextual reason to make the arrest. And I think that this would have required some better lawyering at trial.
I think his lawyer failed him. Yeah. Because
you can't really argue the First Amendment issue until you first argue that the safety issue was a pretext in order to obviate the First Amendment's protections. Go ahead. What's that?
One other thing I would add, watching the end of that trial, is he might try to use a little civility.
Yeah.
Civility goes a long way. If you treat me nicely, I'm going to treat you the same way, right? Do unto others. I heard that written somewhere, like in stone, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I think you got to also playing devil's advocate and the advocate of many here on the sidebar. There are people who want to test because protest means for testing, and they want to test because these people know it's a tough job. So maybe they want to be jerks to see what the reaction is going to be, to see if people are going to be neutral arbiters and enforcers of the peace. And I also understand the other side. Well, if you're nice to me, maybe I'll let you off. But that also can rub people the wrong way because they're like, well, wait a minute, you're supposed to be black and white. You're supposed to be neutral.
No,
in the application of the law.
No,
so
haven't you heard of officer discretion?
Well, that's okay. So that's why I want you to get into the mix here, because again, enforcing criminal cases, I was just a clerk, every
time I make a stop, you have to take in the totality of the circumstances. I'm ADHD, right? Neurodivergent. Love that stuff. But it gives people the ability to take in more information, right? And I prided myself on my ability to take in a lot of information. And so if you go up to a car and you've got 3 crying kids, you've got a mom who's just sweating, the AC's broke on the car, and she was doing 10 over, and she's like, I've got to go to the child care, I got to do this and this. Are you going to give that lady a ticket?
Yeah, that's right, because you're exercising discretion.
Yeah. Now, if she's doing 20, none of the kids are in car seats, and like we're going to have a longer stop. But I've gotten people car seats. We keep them at PD just for that reason.
Yeah,
like, we care.
Okay.
But if I pull you over, you got kids bouncing around the car, and you start yelling and cussing at me too, we've got a different problem, because obviously you can't handle it.
Okay. Okay. So I just want, I guess, it's important for me because I want my audience to see the human side of what you're doing. And based on my conversations with you, it sounds like you're a pretty good cop. I mean, you actually turned in a couple of bad cops, and you were serious about your job. You even tried to be a Marine. That tells me a lot about your character, because not anybody can be a Marine or even would consider trying to do that. Yeah. So that tells me a lot. So, I just want people to give you as an individual the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe that you can support minorities or any group of anyone until you support individual rights. I think everything else is irrelevant, because once you support individual rights and respect for the individual on a one-on-one basis, all that other stuff just falls apart. And then we're forced to look at each other as humans. So keep that in mind. And now you guys have had an opportunity to hear from a real expert. And I know we've already gone into an hour and 22, and I know that you were not looking forward to going that far.
It's all right. The heating pad's already on.
All right. So I know you're disabled and all that, but listen, so my buddy, bzwatchdog, he's got bzwatchdog. It's a fledgling channel that's starting up, and he helps me out organizing shows. And we're trying to do stuff to help people in the auditor and cop watcher community know their rights so they don't get into trouble and can still do a good job holding public officials accountable, which is super important to me. Absolutely. And yeah, and I would like it if you consider going on his show too and doing some cop watcher breakdown videos and catching hell from his audience too. And I appreciate you playing along and catching hell, because you must have some brass balls to be able to handle some of these comments. And then,
I like Joe Rogan. Don't tell anybody, but he was the one that said you just got to let it go, right? You can't even look at them. And I read them, and some of them hurt, not going to lie, but I also spent a decade as a cop. I've heard it all.
Well, real quick. So I guess we got a new, what do they call these guys? Flamers or troll? Never asked Michael Ehline. Tried to be a Marine. How would a joke? Well, look, he said that he got boarded out for some kind of a hearing problem. So, which is pretty common. We had guys getting boarded out. Usually you don't find out about it for a while.
We were a month in. It was the 3rd hearing test. You get your hearing test at MEPS, then you go. I was at MCRD San Diego. You get your hearing test, and then they pulled me out 2 days later, and they're like, "Hey, we're sending you over to Balboa." And then they stick a bunch of crap in your ear and do a suction test and all that crap. Yeah.
Yeah, they pulled me out of my series during third phase, which is like the hardest part. It's like
Yeah, no
that-
joke.
yeah, like the Crucible would be now. We call it third phase, but it was rough.
Yeah.
And they pulled me out to get my wisdom teeth pulled, man. And
On my birthday, on my 21st birthday.
whew, that was rough. Yeah, that was a rough one. And then I was the first series to go through Marine combat training on the West Coast. And I also had to go to SOI. Now, if you're a infantry as your primary, you just go straight to SOI. But I had to go through MCT and SOI, which sucked. And during MCT, you just got out of boot. You know, you don't want to go through another school. You want to go through infantry, get out in the fleet, man. Go meet some chicks. So. Yeah, man, I was doing MCT and it was my 19th birthday and they made me do push-ups to celebrate my birthday out in the field. But
Nice.
So, okay, hold on a minute. So, hey, look, so David Murphy had some nice things to say. He said, today's guest believes in the Constitution at least. Great show. Well, hey, I appreciate that, David. Hey, look, I know a lot of you guys aren't going to agree with everything that I do or even what my guests do. But the point is I don't want Chile to be in jail. I like the guy. I really do. And I've got a guest on here with an experience in law enforcement. So, because I want to come up with some other theories. And also I wanted you guys to not be walking around blindly, just relying on Wilson and these other cases. You need to distinguish the facts of the cases. I don't believe that those cases would apply unless we could prove that the stop was about speech. And I think the officer said it himself. He wouldn't stop filming. And I just think that if you had better representation at trial, this would have never happened. That's my thought. That's what I have to say about it. And then I'm just going to look at, and bzwatchdog said, I had wisdom teeth. Oh yeah, I know. But I was during third phase, man. And they actually put me on bed rest. And of course, my senior and gunnery sergeant, Staff Sergeant Williams, drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Williams, drill instructor, senior drill instructor, gunnery sergeant Minder, and Sergeant Dunkel all came in my squad bay and started bending me. And blood started coming out, because I was on bed rest. They were like, you get your shit and get back out in the field, blah, blah. And the corpsman was there with them, like gauzing me up. Like back then, dude, it was different. Like in the 80s in the Marine Corps, that like you're a sick bay commando. I don't care if somebody like stabbed you at Oceanside over the weekend. You're going out and you're training. And it was just totally different, man. But I'm glad I had that experience. It prepared me for dealing with this hostile audience in the sidebar over here.
Hey, it's freedom of speech. If we didn't have the ability to have discourse and conversations like this, with differing opinions and different views, this whole country wouldn't work.
I agree with that. I think that the big corporations are the ones trying to silence us. Us regular folks, if left to our own devices, we wouldn't need their controlled narrative from all these big CNN and Fox and all this for-profit garbage that they're feeding us. I think we'd be a lot happier if we just did stuff like we're doing right now instead of relying on that garbage. I'd rather donate an hour of my time a night to help educate you people without getting paid by BlackRock or some big company because it makes me feel good, right? Than have to watch that crap. So with that being said, it looks like unless you see any questions you want to respond to, I agree with King Braveheart. The arrest should have never happened. That real quick, guys. The arrest should have never happened. Chile wasn't doing anything wrong. The perp was released. It shouldn't have happened. We've had a former law enforcement officer on tonight, basically kind of agreeing, saying it kind of didn't make sense. I mean, the perp was released. Like the guy probably had his feelings hurt. It's a feelings hurt case, and I think King Braveheart is 1,000% on the money.
That's a POP.
Oh, wait, hold on. What's that?
It's a pissing off the police.
Pissing off the police. Okay, well, there you guys heard it. So, you've got an honest guy here. He's willing to catch hell from you, coming on here, basically saying what I've been saying, but I wanted to break it down for you more. Instead of watching all these videos, the Wilson case, look at the facts of Wilson. Look at the facts of any case anyone cites and compare it to the facts of your case. And then that's where you're going to find your answer. And that's where I came up with this theory that I believe that the officer safety was a pretext to obviate Chile's free speech rights. And I got the final say on that because I'm the lawyer. But let me see here. Okay, as far as being hostile and aggressive goes, Citizens Broadcasting Cooperative, if he was being hostile and aggressive to the point where there was an officer safety issue, well, this officer here next to me could tell. Did you see anything? Okay.
No.
Now, what would be like a furtive movement, like hands flying, like what would
When he does go for his phone,
yeah,
after he says he's detained,
yeah,
like that's now we're starting to get like, what's he bringing out? Now he's starting, and even his speech really wasn't aggressive until they get back to the cruiser, right? Like he's just like, this is clearly. I mean, he maybe he acts a little superior, like he knows. I know my rights.
Yeah,
you're a street lawyer, but other than that, no, I don't really see it, man.
Yeah. And by the way, I look up to people like that who go out and demand their rights. I really do. I have a place in my heart for them because they really do remind me of like a William Wallace or a Sam Adams.
They don't know their rights.
Yeah, to me, I have utmost respect for people like that, and it really makes me want. It lights a fire in my belly because there's so few alpha males out there who are willing to put their ass in jail for what they believe in, and they're not even harming anybody. That's the deal. He's not even hurting anyone. He's just trying to get accountability in his mind, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with what he's doing. I think it's his right as a citizen, and to be tested is life, right? If we're not tested, we're not going to be strong. And it really should be making better officers when we have people like this, right? I mean, for real.
That's right.
Right? If you know somebody's watching, you're going to do better. And I commend him for doing that. I really do. Because he is taking a risk. I mean, I don't want to spend 20 days in jail. He's looking at what, 180?
Dude, 20 minutes, man.
Golly. I didn't like being in jail, putting people in jail, right? Like, it's you got the window painters, the finger painters and stuff in there, and people spitting. It's not a happy place to be. Oh
man, I didn't want to hear about it. It makes me sick to my stomach just thinking about how our own country could do this to people. How this is not making the country a better place. It's a for-profit prison system, and they're all
our jails need to be overhauled completely. Yeah, the whole system does.
Yeah, well, I want to have you back on, but I also would like it if you could. Maybe I could hook you up with bzwatchdog because he did a really cool passive audit video. Because I wanted you to help people understand the difference between a passive or an aggressive audit. And maybe even help us come up with some tactics on how to do audits from outside the 21-foot danger zone to where we have like these nice cameras and telescopic audio.
Start with the Samsung, the S23 series or whatever, because they have a microphone in them that actually adjusts for distance.
No kidding. All right.
Yeah. So like if I'm talking here, but I'm taking video of somebody 20 feet away, it's picking up their audio better than mine. It's
no way.
I don't sell these or anything. I just love them. Yeah.
I was thinking of like the ninja approach too, where somebody they're all like you don't see their camera, they don't have any clue. The cops have no clue.
The Bluetooth mic, hurl it over.
Right, the Chinese stars. No, I was thinking more like forced reconnaissance. You do on a recon mission, they don't even know you're there. Swift, silent, and deadly, and you catch video of them dropping drugs in cars and planting throwdown weapons and all that. Because I think you'd get a lot more if they didn't know you were filming them. Now, Chile's philosophy is cops are less likely to violate people's rights if they know they're being filmed. But I agree 1,000%, especially when they're in Compton and they just want to make an arrest or something. You're looking for minorities because they know they don't have any money. Throw someone's 38, that dude's going away for the 5 years minimum. And
so
I want someone filming that. I want that on camera.
If you want to do cop watch for real and you want to get to where the action is, you don't do it in the daylight. I mean, maybe in LA and some of the darker places of Vegas, that's not where they put the guys that get complaints. They don't put them on daylight. They don't have them where the brass can listen to the radio.
Makes sense.
Right.
All right.
If you want to go looking for people that might be doing shady stuff gets done in the dark.
Now, sleepographer, what's the legality of using telescopic audio recording? Well, it depends on where you're using it. Anywhere that you wouldn't have a reasonable expectation of privacy, you should be able to record officers and pretty much anyone else. Now, me personally, if I saw you filming children or like women solo, like in public, I probably would be in jail because I'd probably like knock your teeth out. But that's just my personal, right? So there's the law and there's what's moral. And, you know, I put my law license at risk if I saw that kind of stuff going on because it's so disgusting. But as a general rule, if you're just engaged in a First Amendment protected activity, which I think doesn't involve filming children, then I think you're perfectly okay to do what you want. Now, public restrooms are always going to be off limits because anyone would think you'd have a reasonable expectation of privacy, right, guys?
All right, Michael, so I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
In these states where it's a two-party rule, recorded video and audio,
Yeah.
if one of the persons is a police officer, do they have a reasonable expectation of privacy then?
Not in public, not according to the Supreme Court cases that I've read. Now, if it's a private area or if it is a public forum, if it's a public forum, there could be reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions in place that would sort of mitigate your ability to record when you want to, or how you can record, or what you can point your camera at. And I discussed this with some of my other viewers the other day. It's generally going to be in courthouses. Nowhere in the courthouse at all are you supposed to record at any court that I'm aware of, unless it's by permission of the head or superior judge of the court. Now, in courtrooms themselves, any of the judges of any of their own courtrooms can say, we'll give you a media pass to walk through the courthouse without your camera filming, to come into our room. You'll sit in a media box, but you cannot point your camera at the jury. So understand those time, place, and manner restrictions are to protect the identities of faces of jurors, children, minors, victims of crime.
So on a traffic stop, though, they don't have the person in the car doesn't have any reasonable expectation of privacy?
No, as long as it's in public. So now, an argument could be made that for charter, like a charter party passenger vehicle. So I used to have a limousine company. In fact,
no, I know exactly what you. Yeah, they're all over Virginia.
Yeah, I was Rodney Dangerfield's driver, so I used to take him to the MGM Grand from LA, and I got stories, man, about Sam Kinison. Man, this guy was so cool. You guys have no idea. So I've had a really full life. I've done a lot of cool things, which I think makes me a good lawyer. Let me give myself a little bit of a prop there. But no, seriously, a limousine, by virtue of the fact that it's a chartered, you can drink back there, you can do whatever you want. They have to get a search warrant even for those people that have to roll down their window. Now, me as the driver, I'm subject to a DUI, test, get pulled over, whatever. But back there, those people do have a reasonable expectation of privacy. Absolutely. If I give him my bill,
I was just wondering for these guys that are 1A advocates, because you were talking about doing the commando, crawling over and getting the video good. Do they have, are they going to get in any trouble for it?
No, as long as it's in public and there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. So, like let's say it's a DUI checkpoint and they have an area that's cordoned off that's got sheets around it so they can do strip searches of females or minors. Now, if you're trying to get in there and film that, I don't think I think that those people have a reasonable expectation of privacy. And I think that you're in big trouble for doing that. I think you could be in a lot of trouble, not just from the law, but from other people who care less about the law and more about God's law. You know what I mean? Yep. So little things like that. Yeah, and crazy husbands. So be careful out there about what you guys film and when you film and where you film. But as a general rule, as long as it's not in a restroom, you can film in public. Now, there is an issue coming up about whether or not you can deploy a drone to help you film and get officer accountability. So that's something I would like to do a show about. And maybe you've heard about that, and we could talk about that in another program.
It's still kind of new, right? Because it's another one of those recording things, over fences and stuff. Yeah, I'd be interested to be on, at least hear about that one. Yep,
that's it. So look, I'm going to go ahead and close this out.
With Brick.
So,
Great, Brick.
Yeah. I want to. That's right, Brick Jones. This guy's super cool, man. You guys will end up liking each other. We'll probably all end up meeting up and putting some rounds down range at some private course, maybe where we can do some full auto where it's legal.
I know a couple places. I'm actually down here by the Demolition Ranch.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Range.
Well, all the Texas guys, we all got to get together and have some fun. But okay, so I want to have you back on. I want to have you on BZ Watchdog. I'll give you guys some so you can contact each other. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save and make
Find
sure
me
to
on
save
X.
Yeah, and make sure to save it to your computer too. Make sure to save it to your computer because you never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. You know they might. They probably will because I'm saying stuff that most lawyers won't tell you. I'm trying to share things with you about natural law, natural rights, so you'll understand where your rights come from, so you'll know what it means to keep them well. And goodbye and semper fidelis.